I want to start out by just defining what statistics is. Okay, so I have a definition here, and I'm going to write it on my chalkboard. Now my chalkboard is actually right here. It's a sheet of paper, and I have a camera shining down, and so I can just write here. Okay, and just so you know, I try to write things so that if you write them in your own notes, that it'll make sense later on when you go back and look at it. So I try to keep a not just scribble here, there, everywhere, but an ongoing train of thought going in these notes. So, okay, so let's define statistics here. Okay, so the definition I'm going to use is the following. Okay, statistics is the science of collecting, organizing, summarizing, analyzing, and drawing conclusions from data. Okay. Now the main thing about statistics, the idea behind statistics is we're making decisions every day of our life. Okay? And we usually make decisions based upon what we know about a situation. And we try to make the best decision possible. Okay? But oftentimes we're making the decision based upon what we think is a good idea. This is what I should do. Okay, but statistics is kind of that science and that mathematics of being able to gather data and actually make your decisions based upon what the data tells you. Okay, and there's a whole science to doing this, making your decisions based on not just what you think is a good idea, but making the decisions based upon what the data tells you. Okay, so here's some examples where statistics is used. Okay, usually if I ask somebody, where do you see statistics being used, people will usually give one or two examples. They usually think, in gambling and casinos, because the games of chance, there's probability and that sort of stuff going on. Or they'll say sports, because on the back of a baseball card you have all the stats for the different players. Okay, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. Okay, and really statistics is used in many, many different areas and in different careers. Okay, and just to open your eyes a little bit to some of these, okay, let's give a few examples. Business is one example. Okay, now a business, if they're making business decisions, okay, they don't want to base it just off of what they think is a good idea. Like, hey, maybe we should open a Dillard's or a Macy's there in Waterloo. I think it would do well. Okay? They don't want to base it just off of what they think would be a good idea, but off of data. They gather data together. They take the demographics, maybe people's incomes, where they like to shop, and they're gathering all this data, and they have to be able to organize it and then summarize it and analyze it so that they can then decide, yes, I think it would be a good idea to open a Macy's in Waterloo. Okay, or no, it's not a good idea. Okay, that's just one example, but business, they're always making decisions, and they want to make those decisions based upon data. Okay, in fact, if you're going to take, if you're going to get a degree in business, you will actually take a business statistics class that's taking and applying some of the basic principles that we learn in this class to the area of business. Okay, so business is one example. Another one is government. Okay, the lawmakers, they have to make decisions, and they don't want to just base it off of what they think is a good idea, but they want to gather data together, information, and they want to be able to analyze that. And when they make their decisions, they want to base it off of what the data is telling them. In fact, a lot of people in government actually hire people that do statistics, who can gather the important data together and analyze it and give them advice on what they should do. Okay? And so government would be one area. Education. In education, you want to make sure students are learning. So you're assessing them, you're gathering data together. Are they meeting the benchmarks? Also, if there's a new teaching method, is that a method going to be effective or not? You know, you want to do studies to see whether or not new techniques or whatever are effective. And that's similar to the following. In medical research, they want to know, is a new treatment effective, or is a drug safe or not? Is it going to have bad side effects? How do they make these decisions? Okay, not just what they think, but they're actually performing studies, gathering data together, okay, and making their decisions based not just what they think is a good idea, but on the data. Okay, similar to that too is quality control. Okay, like the Food and Drug Administration, or companies that make tractors or airplanes. They're always testing their products, and they're trying to decide, based upon the data they receive from their test, whether or not the qualities have a high enough quality to, whether the products have whether they meet the standards or not. Okay. And sometimes it's just with individual parts. Do the parts meet a certain standard? Okay. To make those decisions, there's people who gather data together and base those decisions off of what the data says. And I'll just add one more here, insurance. Okay. Insurance companies need to know, how much do they charge people for their premiums? How much do the people have to pay in order for the insurance company to be able to make enough money and enough profit to make it worth their time? The people that do this, they're called actuarials, okay? And it requires gathering a lot of data. Here's an example. When my wife and I were dating, it was a long-distance relationship. She lived in California in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I lived here in Waterloo. And I never drove. And maybe this would be a good time to say this. I didn't say this at the beginning, but I actually have Tourette syndrome. And that's a chemical imbalance. And probably the only thing you would notice by watching the video is that sometimes I might kind of twitch like that. And it's just it's a neurological disorder, and it's caused by having too much dopamine. So so I never drove. Because of my Tourette, I never drove. And so my wife and I were figuring out what our budget should be. How much money should we set aside to different things? So when we came to car insurance, her car insurance was over $2,000. And so we set aside $2,000 for her car insurance. When she came here, she realized her car insurance was only like $650. So all of a sudden we had almost $1,500 that we didn't even know that we had, because the insurance was so much less here in Iowa. So why was it less? Why did they not charge us as much as they did in San Francisco? So the reason is, in San Francisco, there's a higher risk of getting into accidents, and there's also a higher standard of living. The real estate is very expensive in San Francisco, and there's more people in San Francisco, more vehicles on the road, and so they have to charge more in San Francisco than they do here in Iowa in order to make the profit that they want to make. Well, who decides how much they have to charge in each place? And what do they base that decision on? Okay, not just what they think is a good price, okay, but they base it on data. And actuarials are the people who gather that sort of data together, and they do the statistics to decide what the premiums need to be. Okay, so those are all different ways that statistics can be used. And hopefully this opens your eyes that, wow, statistics can be used in a lot of different areas. Not just gambling, not just sports, but almost any area where you have to make decisions. You could benefit by making your decisions not just what you think is a good idea, but upon what data tells you. Okay? And not that the data alone tells you what decision to make, but it should at least be one of the many factors that you consider in making decisions. Okay? And this can be used in many, many different careers and different areas in the work world. And in fact, it's becoming more and more common. And the reason for that is that with computers, we have the ability to do statistics in a very practical, easy, quick way. In the past, the formulas were so long and you had to do it for large data sets that it was very, very impractical for people to do statistics. So unless it really, really needed to be done, people were not doing statistics. But now we type all the data into Microsoft Excel or some other database, and that program in seconds can do what it would have taken people hours and possibly days to do in the past. So for that reason, statistics is becoming more and more important in the world today. And more people are learning how to do statistics, how to interpret the results, and how to use statistics to make well-informed decisions. Okay? So those are ways statistics can be used. Now, when I first met my wife and she found out I was a statistics instructor, she said, "Oh, I took statistics." She goes, "I took that class, and you know what? What I learned from that class is it's a bunch of lies, and that people are always misleading. So you look in the news and you look in politics. When they use statistics, they're just lying to you, and so you got to be really, really careful." Okay. I think it's a little unfortunate that that's what my wife took away from her statistics class. Okay, it is true that people can use statistics to be misleading. Okay, so in other words, statistics can be misused, and we want to learn about some of the ways that it can be misused. Okay, and so we'll bring that up from time to time. But don't forget, all these areas are ways in which it can be used. So if you're the one using statistics, it can be used to make good, informed decisions. So statistics is not just a bunch of lies. Okay? It's an important tool that can be used when used correctly. Okay? So, but it's also good to be aware that it can be misused. And so this is the paper here that that I handed out in class. And this is called How to Create Misleading Statistics in 6 Easy Steps. And what I'll have you do is I'll have you read this. And if you're watching this video and there could be some other paper. Right now, this is my favorite article on how to misuse statistics. It's very short and to the point, but this is not the only article I've used. I've used other articles. If you go online, there's many different web pages and little articles about this subject, and it's really a lot of fun. It's fun to see how people have misused statistics. It's very interesting. So you could just type into Google misleading statistics or how to lie with statistics, and you will get all kinds of websites about this sort of thing. Okay, so this is just a real basic, certainly not exhaustive, only 6 ways that statistics can be misleading. And as we go through, we'll talk about these ways as well as some more ways. So you're aware, before you come to class, you'll want to read this article or whatever article you have on how statistics can be misleading. Okay? But remember, don't just assume statistics is misleading, because it's not only misused, more importantly, statistics can be used effectively. So you don't want to be cynical, okay? about statistics. That's kind of like where my wife was. Maybe her teacher overemphasized how statistics could be misleading. You don't want to be cynical about it. And you don't want to be naive and just believe all the statistics you hear because it seems mathematical and mathematics is always right or whatever. You don't want to take that approach. So you don't want to be cynical. You don't want to be naive. What you want to be is you want to be critical. And what that means, that's not the same as cynical. It means that you understand how statistics is used, and you're aware of some of the ways it can be misused. And so when you hear a statistical study, you can kind of understand, oh, you know, I think that this is a good use of statistics. Here's ways that maybe people could be misusing it, and you can check deeper. And just understanding the ways it's used and misused is the important thing. And hopefully throughout this course, you will gain a deeper understanding about how statistics is both used and misused. Okay?